Welcome back to Refit and Sail. My name's Georges, the Solent Boat Butler, and it is a beautiful, sunny, bright day here on the River Hamble. And in this episode, I'm going to be drilling some holes in the deck, which is going to allow me to fit this and put a big smile on the owner's face. I've just done a bit of an upgrade on this boat. It's just got some new Spinlock clutches, it's got some new Harken halyard winches, deck organisers, and then whilst I was doing it, I was having a conversation with the owner and I said, realistically, to finish this off nicely, you could do with a deck ring at the base of the mast to pull all the lines down as far as possible. It just make the lead of all those lines going aft much better. So we've got a whole bunch of lines here coming out of the boom for the reefing of the mainsail, and then we've got halyards, spinnaker uphauls, downhauls, and all that sort of good stuff. So what we are going to do is fit a deck ring which allows us to fit lots of blocks around the base of the mast, and that just makes the whole thing neat and tidy and work really well. One of the issues you've got though with a traditional deck ring is that it is a ring, so you have to take the mast out to fit it, and on a Contessa you also have to cut off the GRP upstand that's moulded into the deck when the boat was built. So I have an alternative to that, which is one of these things. So I get these manufactured for me, and it's a horseshoe, so all the lines, this fits at the back end of the mast, so all the lines can go onto blocks which are attached to the back here. Don't have anything at the front, but it means that you can fit this to the deck, and apologies for the noise, you can fit this to the deck without modifying the deck significantly. It's much quicker and easier to fit, and it's about the same cost as going and getting a Selden deck ring or a deck ring from another manufacturer. Now on Lottie, if you've seen the earlier videos, I have fitted a Selden deck ring to her. She's the boat actually right next door, and in that case we fitted the Selden deck ring because that boat's also getting a new mast, and the new Selden mast, a section of it, does not fit through the existing hole. So we knew we had to modify the deck anyway on that boat, but on this boat still got the original mast, and if the owner wanted to change this mast, he doesn't have to go Selden. He could go Z-Spars, he could go Eurospars, or one of the other manufacturers that would fit through the existing hole. So this isn't wasted effort fitting this sort of deck ring or deck organiser arrangement. So fitting is going to be relatively straightforward. As I said, this is just a bolt down job onto the deck. The deck and the headliner are solid, so there's nothing to worry about in terms of compression in there. And then below deck we fit some tie bars which tie the loads back to the mast, and that is absolutely critical. I do know one Contessa, chap bought it and went off sailing in it, and it had a deck ring on it, and he obviously was sailing in some big waves, and the deck was flexing because there was nothing to stop the deck from moving. So it's critical that we put tie bars back in to take all the loads of all the halyards back down onto the mast, so the deck doesn't effectively get stressed or moved in any meaningful way. So I've just come below because it's incredibly bright out there, and just to show you what I mean by tying the deck down back into the mast. So above deck you obviously have this thing here, which is the deck ring I've shown you in nice polished stainless steel. Below decks we have an equivalent, if I get it out the packet, an equivalent horseshoe which will get mounted up here like so, and then on the end of two of those fixings I have two little eyes which I haven't got to show you, but we end up also with two little rigging screws. I'll take the covers off, it'll be easier for you to see. So I can attach this toggle up here to the end of an eye, and then I'll put a fitting in the mast so that this again gets tied into the mast, and you just tension these up so that it's taut but not super tight, so you're not pulling the mast up with it or the deck down, but you're just taking up the tension on it so that when all the loads are put on the halyards, so if someone's really cranked up the halyard tight for the main and the genoa, you're not lifting the deck off the boat out of position. So I'm going to hop back up on deck, I'm going to set up a time lapse, and you'll see me marking out where I need to drill some holes. What I tend to do, and this is a good rule of thumb for fitting anything, to be honest with you, on a boat, what I tend to do is I'll drill two holes, drop a fixing in those holes, and then I know that this can't move, and then I can go and drill off all the other holes that need to go around. And I tend to oversize the holes very slightly, so I think these all require M6s, and I'll probably go 6.5, something like that, on the drill hole size, bang it all through, and then hopefully I'll get it to all line up with this on the inside, because these holes are all pre-drilled so that everything fits. You probably can't see that, but you can now see all the way through there, hopefully. There we go. Right, time lapse coming up. Cue the music. Well, as you have just seen, this is now in and dry fitted. So what I like to do is get everything dry fitted. I do all these nuts up because this plate here is, I'm going to say, 4mm thick. So it's reasonably stiff, but it does conform to the shape of the deck and the inner headlining quite nicely. I can't remember if I said, but it's solid. Between the inner headlining and the deck, it's all totally solid in there. So when they built the boats, they filled it full of some sort of bog. So you can crank these up quite tight and you don't have to worry about compressing any kind of open air gap in there. But the critical thing is I wanted to do these up because all these bolts need cutting down. When I put these kits together for clients, I always make sure everything is kind of oversized, and so you can chop these down to your specific boat, because hand-built boat, 1970s, they're all slightly different. So I'm going to be putting dome nuts on all of these. So in a minute, I'm going to go around with a pen, work out how much I need to cut off each of these fixings, take a slitting disc to them off the boat, and then make sure that I put the correct one back in the correct hole, so that when it comes to doing this all up and it's all covered in sealant, we don't have any messy, oh shit, I've got number 2 in the hole for number 4, because I've got them muddled up. So here are the dome nuts in here. So I'm just going to quickly measure how much thread each of these dome nuts takes with a washer, and then I can work out how much thread I need to cut off. So a little bit of measuring, and then it can all come apart again. The only additional thing that I've got to keep in mind, because I've just remembered, is one of these on each side is going to have this ring nut, I think it's called, and that's going to go on there. So I need to make sure the thread is slightly longer on this one. I'll use a plain nut and then I'll wind this on afterwards, because that's the one that's going to take the rigging screw to take the loads back onto the mast. So that one is slightly different each side to the rest of them. So that I don't get my screws mixed up, I have made a little thing like this. So you do this when you're taking cylinder heads, engines apart, and you're taking the valves out, and you get a little bit of cardboard and you stick the appropriate valve or push rod into a piece of cardboard like this, so that when you reassemble your engine, you put the right valve back in the right hole. So using the same method allows me to make sure when these are all cut to the right size, they won't be mixed up. As they say in the army, I was never in the army, but as they say in the army, preparation prevents piss poor performance, I think is what they say. Hopefully the internet won't mind if I say that, it's not too sweary. Or fail to plan, plan to fail. I think there's another one. They love those sort of things in the military, don't they? Right, there we go. I'm going to go and get a slitting disc and chop all them down. So doing this sort of thing when you're needing to cut bolts, these sort of tips are absolute gold dust if you're doing this sort of job and you know that the fixings you're going to be fitting are all slightly different lengths. It saves an awful lot of swearing and head scratching when you're doing it. If you like these sort of tips and you want to thank me, there is a link down in the description below where you can buy me a beer. It's a PayPal link. You can send me £5, $10, €15, a million escudos if you wish to. I don't really mind what it is, but I really do appreciate it. All those donations do help keep this channel alive, do help pay for the software that I use for video editing and all the other associated costs with running this channel. Trust me, it is not free running a YouTube channel. If you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. You could do one more thing for me. If you hit that subscribe button, it does make a massive difference to how I can grow this channel, and giving me a thumbs up as well also makes a massive difference. So if you can do those two things, that really is appreciated. Anyway, I need to get on with fitting this deck ring so that I can give the owner that big smile I was talking about. Everything's been wiped down with acetone on deck here just to make sure it's all nice and clean. So all I'm going to do next is run a big bead of sealant all around these holes and under this, so it's kind of bedded down on sealant just to fill any gaps, and then I'm going to get my assistant to come up here and hold all the fixings while I fit the bit from underneath, and I'll stick a time lapse on and you can watch us doing up stuff and hopefully not getting too covered in goo. And there we go. It is looking pretty decent. There's something to be said for bolting nice shiny things onto the deck of a boat when it's lovely and sunny outside. Now I've just got to do the tie rods and the rigging screws and all that stuff which goes on the mast down below. Well, it's time to start thinking about these things, the tie downs. So I've just trimmed the end of this piece of rigging here, this little rigging fork, because it was just interfering with the end of this nut, but that is not a problem. Just a little tickle with the angle grinder and a flat disc on it has just removed a tiny bit of material, so that now goes on no problem. I've wound this up kind of 3/4 of the way so that I can then work out where I need to fit my mast backing plate. So this goes inside the mast. What I have to do is work out where I want this thing, drill a hole with a hole saw, pop this in, locate it, and then rivet it in place. Now, the trick is to not drop this down inside the mast, because you can't get it out again ever without taking the mast foot off, and that's a complete pain. So we use a bit of string for that. But first of all, I need to work out the location of where this is going to go on both sides, drill the holes. The back of this needs to be coated with something, because this is stainless steel, that's aluminium. They are dissimilar metals, so anything that you attach to a mast that's stainless, if your mast is aluminium, you've got to put a barrier in here. So a common one is to use chromate paste. One brand name is Duralac. I'm sure there are others around, but I have, hopefully, a tube of Duralac in the van, so I can coat all this up with this yellow, greeny yellow Duralac, pop it in the mast, get my riveter, which is also around in the workshop, so I'm going to have to go there, pop that in, job's a good one. But it's getting very close to lunchtime and I'm like a baby. I do need to be fed pretty regularly. Doesn't have to be a lot, but my wheels start falling off if I don't have a constant supply of food. So I think I'm going to mark where this goes, have lunch, get the bits, and I'll come back and drill the holes. It's probably more information than the viewer needs, isn't it? But hey, there we go. Right, a pen. I want it roughly on the centre line of the mast. Centre line is about there. Do a little dot. Ugh, there's something on that pen lid. It tastes horrible. Get that fairly straight. So it's central. And then I'm going to measure down and put it on the same location on the other side. So I have wound this up 3/4 of the way because I don't want it to be miles down here. Just I want it to be as short as possible really, but whilst still having some adjustment. So that is the plan, because the lower down it is, the more it's going to stick out, the more you might catch it on your shoulder as you go forward into the heads. So short is good. There's not a huge amount of load on these things. These are massively over spec for the job that they need, but it just worked out that it was cheaper to buy these rigging screws in this size than to go for a smaller one. Also, having a slightly longer length does bring it down slightly down the mast, because you don't want it coming in at too much of an angle in. The lead position wants to be moderately vertical, and that's just the way it worked out. But these are ridiculously oversized for the application. Well, lunch has been consumed, and I've been to the workshop, got my lazy tong rivet gun, and importantly I have the Duralac paste, which is the barrier paste which will go on the backing plate. So I need to chuck a hole in here and a hole in the other side. I will start by drilling a hole for the hole saw to centre on, and then go in with a hole saw. Now ideally I need a 30mm hole saw. 30mm is not a standard size, annoyingly, so I've got a 29. So a brand new 29 I've just borrowed from the boatyard. So I'm going to chuck that through and then open it up with a file just to 30 so I can get the fitting in, and then I can show you a neat little trick on how to fit it without dropping this down inside of the mast. Let's start with a hole. I'll try and do this in front of the camera, which is quite tricky, not having me in the shot. Right, the centre of it is just about there, I would say. One hole, same the other side. All good. As always when drilling metal, the trick is to go slowly with lots of pressure, ideally. And I probably should use some cutting oil. If you're drilling metal, you should really use cutting oil, but aluminium is so soft you can get away without it, or just give it a squirt of WD-40 or some other spray lube. Right, hole saw needs an arbor, and then we can make some big holes. Right, this theory, that won't fit, and I'm right, it won't fit. But I've got them about level because I can look straight through here and I can see the hole on the other side, so that's all good. I'll drill the other hole, and then I need to have a hoover up. I know I should be wearing safety glasses before someone says I'm sort of squinting and keeping my eyes closed a bit while I'm doing this, which is not recommended. Do as I say, don't do as I do. There we go, on a little disc of aluminium. So this mast is about, I'm going to say 3mm thick on the sidewalls. You can just see it there. Right, go and get a file and open that up. In fact, first thing I'm going to do is return this hole saw back to the yard, guys. We did a fair swap. They needed a vernier and I needed a hole saw, and they've really returned the vernier, so I better get this back to them. That's the holes just opened up enough that these fit snugly. Next thing is we need some rivet holes. So you see it's got two at the top and one at the bottom. Now, my rigger friend tells me that some of these are handed, so you have to have them the right way up. Some of them are universal. They think this is a universal one. It's equal about, but he did say you want to have your two rivets away from the load that you're pulling against. So in the case of this, it's going to be pulling upwards, so I want the two rivets at the bottom, I'll get it in the hole, and the one rivet at the top to locate it. So all I need to do is just hold that in place, chuck some holes in the mast, and then we are ready for fitting. That's going to hold that there, get it vertical, and one at the top. Mark it at the bottom for that one. Mark it at the one for that one. Well, holes are all drilled, and I have just coated these backing plates with a generous helping of Duralac paste. So that's going to be my barrier between the stainless and the aluminium, and I can now show you the little rope trick so you don't lose your backing plate down the inside of your mast. So I've poked it through the top hole, out the big hole, and then I can poke this through. I've got to get this right through that way in the top hole. Put a stopper knot in the end. I've got to be honest, this is a trick learnt from my mate Dave the rigger. David Aldridge, Ropes and Rigging. Top bloke, very nice man. Very good prices if you're interested in having some rigging done. Anyway, pop that in there. And then, if I've got this right, I can let go of that. And I need to get the goo off my hands, as it loves to stain and stick. And I can pull it up into position, like so, as if by magic. All the holes then line up for me to stick a rivet gun in, so I can then rivet the bottom two rivets, and once that's done I can just chop this off, let the rope fall down inside. A tiny little bit of rope down the bottom of the mast will not do any harm. Put the top rivet in and I'm all done. So the riveting is going to be done with this thing. This is a lazy tong riveter. To be fair, this is getting a bit tired and not always behaving exactly how I want it to behave, but I'm going to pop the rivet in. Oh, there's the last one that's just dropped out. And hopefully, if my holes line up, I'll try not to stand in front of the camera. I'll stick a finger in there. And Oh, there we go. First rivet done. Sorry, I'm out of shot. Maybe that's a good thing. First rivet done. Let's stick another rivet in. I can chuck this next one in. This is what I meant about this thing getting a bit tired. I think the jaws on it are starting to reach the end of their life. Done. Next one. One more to go. But I can now remove my bit of string with a knife, if I can find a knife. There we go. So if you are doing riveting a lot, you can get tools like this. This is an electric rivet gun, which I've just borrowed out of David's van because he's very kindly offered to let me use it. And it is considerably easier to use because we just press the button and it does all the hard work for you. So that is now done. Just going to clean up the goo a little bit. Well, there is just one last thing to do, and that's to attach the rigging toggles. So that will slot in there. That goes up there. Let's unwind it a little bit. Find a pin, which I've put safely just out of reach. Now, I always put them this way, so the split pin's on the inside, so Mr. Customer will hopefully not scratch himself on the split pin. Poke that in there. I'll open it up in a minute once I've done the other side. So they come all kind of wrapped up like this so you don't scratch your beautiful new bronze and stainless steel. So I'll wind that in. So we'll just tighten these up until they are snug. One little tweak like that. And that is plenty. Just need some split pins to go through the doodads, and we're all done. Or not split pins, we could also use some wire. Just there we go. Let's bend these ones over. BEA, beautiful. They're even equal about. Here's a little look without my face in the way. Just put some split pins in here and here, and she's all done. There is just one more thing that needs to be done up on deck, and that is to attach some blocks to all those eyes on the new deck ring, or deck horseshoe I should probably call it, and then run the lines back through the new deck organisers back to the cockpit winches, clutches and what have you. So I will do that off camera. Hope you enjoyed that. These horseshoe deck rings are available. I have got one in stock, which is kind of spoken for on the boat. It's going on the boat that's 2 boats down from this one, but I'm going to get some more made if you're interested in the kit. The last time I got a set made, The welding, making this all up and with all the rigging screws, the whole kit was about £500. It might be slightly more now, but if you are interested, you can drop me a note and I'll be able to update you on the price. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do remember to give me a thumbs up down the bottom, and if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button as well. It costs you nothing, it takes less than a second, just a boop. Hit that subscribe button. It makes a massive difference to the channel and how I grow it. If you have done so, thank you very, very much. There's also that link down in the description. If you want to buy me a beer, you can do so. I don't care what it is. Any beers that are sent my way via the PayPal link are very much appreciated, and again, it helps keep the channel going because it pays for software, lighting, and all the other bits and bobs that I have to buy to run this YouTube channel. It is not free running a YouTube channel. It takes a considerable amount of effort on my part, and it does take some cost as well. So if you have donated, and if you're one of the regular donators to the channel, again, thank you very, very much. It really is appreciated. Anyway, enough from me. I will see you next time. Bye for now.